Good morning. It's the 23rd day of December 2017, 2 days to Christmas Day, and we're excited to be coming your way this morning. This is Newday, Saturday edition. We're live on TV3 here in Accra. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, also in Accra. And we're streaming online around the world on 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. As usual, we're running from now till 9:50, where conversations will be brought to a close. But before then, we would have done some analysis of some topical issues that made the headlines during the week. As usual, we encourage you to send through your thoughts on our WhatsApp number, 05006077070, and we will be happy to share them with the rest of the world. Indeed, it has been an interesting week. Lots of issues happening as we wrap up on the year. So coming up on the show this morning, we're looking at, of course, the controversy surrounding the maiden edition of the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards, GEBA. Sometime in September 2017, that's this year, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, in collaboration with the Millennium Excellence Foundation, launched the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards to essentially honor expatriate businesses for their contribution to the growth of the Ghanaian economy. Now, the maiden edition of these awards was held on the 8th of December 2017, and a couple of days later, what was conceived as a laudable initiative has been caught up in serious controversy. It all started when the Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, alleged this week that the Ministry of Trade and Industry charged expatriates between $25,000 and $100,000 to offer seats close to the President of the Republic at the maiden Ghana Expatriate Business Award ceremony. Now, this allegation obviously caught the attention of many, both locally and globally, and has since been on the front burner. The President subsequently requested the Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Alan Chemating, to explain the circumstances leading to the financial demands, as it were, from the expatriate business community who participated in the award ceremony. Now, in a statement released later, the President communicated that there had been no finding of wrongdoing on the part of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and any government official for that matter. Now, today on the show, we will be looking at the allegation of cash for seats close to the President at the award ceremony and matters arising since the allegation broke. Also up for discussion is another controversial issue surrounding the budget for the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives for the year 2018. Now, as if the uproar surrounding the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards was not enough to keep, us talking for the entire week, news also broke of the special budget, quote-unquote special budget, of the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives. Now, what made this budget special? Not only did it introduce budget lines or budget items that seems interesting, but also the allocations were rather on the extreme side, quite exorbitant. And these, first of all, an amount, for instance, an amount of 2 million Ghana cedis was estimated as the cost of preparing the budget itself, the budget which has come out subsequently to be questioned. In addition, an estimated amount of 800,000 cedis was allocated to the development of the ministry's website. I must add, though, that subsequently the minister has come out to say that that was a typographical error, and the intended figure that had to be stated was 80,000 Ghana cedis. So that works out to a variance of about 720,000. So the question we're asking is Parliament of Ghana telling us that it approved a budget item on the ministry's budget that goes over and above the estimated cost? Another question agitating my mind this morning is this: assuming that the minister's explanation or the minister's claim of a typographical error in respect of the budget line for the website's development is true, question is, what about the 2 million Ghana cedis allocated to budget preparation and the other exorbitant prices or allocations that have been made to certain budget items? We shall be looking or interrogating these issues and many more in respect of the ministry's budget. Also up for discussion is another worrying issue which has to do with journalists being assaulted during the week at the NPP headquarters. Now, while the government was laboring under the GEBA controversy, also the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives issues, news broke of an unfortunate incident involving the beating up of some journalists who visited the ruling party's national headquarters to cover a development story at the time, which involved members of the party from the Elembele constituency in the Western region. Now, while filming events as they were unfolding, the journalists, including journalists from TV3, were attacked by some men believed to be security guards stationed at the NPP headquarters. We are asking questions here, and we shall be looking at this rather unfortunate incident and how to prevent its reoccurrence in the future. Lastly, we'll be looking at absenteeism in Parliament, where we are told this week that the Speaker of Parliament had to suspend sittings of the House twice in 3 days, owing to the absence of MPs in the House. Now, it's reported that by business time 10 a.m. on Wednesday, sitting had only the House had only about 43 members on the floor, when indeed 92 members are required to constitute a quorum. Now, this absenteeism in Parliament has been a long-standing issue. In fact, this is not the first time that Parliament has had to suspend sitting because of the absence of MPs in the House. We complain about it, yet it recurs every now and then. Now, some have called for the constitutional provision that warrants an MP to vacate their seat if they are absent without the permission in writing of the Speaker, and if they are unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. Are MPs flouting this constitutional provision? Or perhaps even more fundamental is the question whether or not the absence from 15 sittings in itself is problematic. And that gives MPs perhaps the laxity that we see happening in Parliament. We'll be looking at these issues lined up for today's conversations. When we come back from this break, you're watching Newday, Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and streaming around the world online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. I will quickly introduce the panelists for today's conversations. From my extreme left, we have Dr. Ahmed Jinapo. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. Next is Mr. Theophilos Tetechai. He is the former MP for Ablekuma Central. I must add that we're expecting a representative of the NPP to join us shortly, but we'll proceed in the meantime without him. When he comes in, we'll do the necessary. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here, and of course we have...
Merry Christmas.
Oh, that's true, yes.
Yeah.
And Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all, and we wish you good tidings. We will move on to look at what has become known now as seats for sale, or the presidency for sale and all of that. But essentially this is an issue involving an awards scheme or an awards ceremony that was done or organized collaboratively between the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Millennium Excellence Foundation, and the objective is to recognize excellence within the expatriate business community for their contribution to the growth of the Ghanaian economy. But we have heard of some issues coming up from that event, which has led to some controversy around perhaps something that started out as a laudable initiative. I will start with you, Doc. This is an event that was organized by a private entity, of course in collaboration with the ministry, which is a state agency, if you like. Now, the private entity here being the Millennium Excellence Foundation, who sought to raise funds with the event and also recognize excellence in the expatriate business community. Now, question is, there are those asking that, okay, did the Millennium Excellence Foundation break any protocol when they sought to use, if you like, the event or the presence of the president at the event to raise funds?
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners, and to join you to wish them a Merry Christmas and an upcoming New Year. I think this issue has been an issue that more or less we follow the narrative. It's been an evolving issue, and there are so many different facets of it. One of them, I mean, the chronology was an issue raised by the Minority Chief Whip, Honorable Muntaka, that monies have been charged from expatriates, and not just monies, but he gave a quotation, I mean 100,000 to 25,000. And the narrative, the Deputy Minister for Trade came to deny it, that nothing of that sort happened. That is Honorable Carlos Ahenkra, that nothing of that sort happened, and that this particular program was organized by the Millennium Excellence Award, and they were just facilitators. You understand? I'm giving you this narrative because it's important for people to what? To get the context within which we are discussing this issue. Post that, the board chairman for this private institution, Ambassador Gbeho, came to organize a press conference and indicated that, look, people were not charged monies, but the only way that they raise money is through programs of this sort. And the amount of money that they raised was as a result of donations and whatever it is. So it means that there was some money that was what? Right. That was given to finance the program. And in fact, that money that was given is even being affirmed by the minister's letter, indicating that this is how much they raised and this is how much was spent. So some money was what? Was raised. And I'm giving you this scenario because it's very important
to observe the chronology.
That is it.
And speaking about the Ambassador Victor Gbeho, indeed, before he made that speech, if you like, the president of the Millennium Excellence Foundation himself, Ashim Moting, had also granted...
Did he say...
yes, and we have that and would like to play it. So we can play it if it's ready, just to, you know...
Yes.
Put things into perspective as we carry on with our conversation. So if it's ready, please, let's have it on.
Well,
indeed, nobody was told to pay $100,000 to sit next to the president. We only found out that the president was coming to that event on the day that he returned from Kumasi. And I had to relinquish my seat. Said Fakri sat next to the president of the Republic of Ghana on that day. He was supposed to sit next to me. I've known Said Fakri for the past 20 years. He has supported my initiatives. He has done a lot for Ghana. He has created the enabling environment for thousands of Ghanaians to work. It was my choice why Said Fakri should sit next to me. So that is why he sat on that table. And Said Fakri did not pay $100,000 before that event. If he decided to support the foundation later on because of the world-class event that we organized that evening, that was his prerogative. But he did not pay $1 before that event. So this should clarify the issues, and I've read somewhere on the social media that Said Fakri paid $100,000 to be seated next to the president. I would want to carefully inform our general public and well-wishers that the office of the president cannot be toyed with. You cannot come out and say that people paid money to sit next to me. You cannot do that. You need to have the facts before you speak. This sponsorship package was designed by the foundation and not by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And if you look at the part that says $100,000, it says that any company that pays $100,000 will have one of their representatives to come and sit on that table. I am here to tell you all that nobody paid $100,000 to sit on that table that evening. So if that should clarify the air about that, that is it. What I know is that some funds were released to to the foundation to organize the expatriate awards. And thereafter, some additional funds were given to us for post-events. I don't know whether those funds were complete. What I also know is that a portion of the funds that were raised by the foundation would be retained by the Ministry of Trade and Industry for further initiatives under the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards. We raised money not to burden the taxpayer of this country. These were monies raised from ordinary citizens of this country or expatriates who believed in the cause of the initiative. And so it is true that some monies have been received to organize the event and post-event activities and so on, and we're still making some payments, but I'm not sure whether everything has been paid. We will release that information to you when we get that information. So
let him know that he's a thief. You have stolen through your life, and you have even lied through your education.
Deputy Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak, during the approval of the Trades and Industry Ministry's budget, said the fees charged at the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards were not the kind approved by Parliament. He said monies collected were not accounted for in the ministry's internally generated funds. Speaking to the media in Parliament, North Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa insisted the ministry was guilty of the accusations being leveled against it. He described it as unacceptable and a disgrace to the presidency.
We are scandalized that the office of president is being desecrated, that you are using the office of president to profiteer, to make money, and you are extorting from the business community, the expatriate business community.
An unhappy Deputy Trades and Industry Minister, Carlos Ahinkra, interrupted the interview the North Tongue MP was granting the press.
You have even lied through your education. Minister, can you now listen to this? Where is the document, please? Give me the document.
Responding to the accusations, the Deputy Minister explained the monies the expatriates were being asked to pay was sponsorship for the program, and that came with various packages for the companies. He said the ministry was not responsible for the organization of the program.
Out of the 450 expatriate businesses, the event organizers selected about 30 or 40 of them for sponsorship, or they contacted them for sponsorship. And by doing so, they invited them to a dinner to, as it were, present their sponsorship package to them for them to decide on whatever sponsorship package they want to select. Now, it was at the dinner that we realized, or we saw for the first time, what packages they were presenting to the sponsors. Sponsorship is nothing like putting a gun to somebody's head and say, whether you like it or not, come and sponsor. It is not gate. Nobody said that we are putting a table at the gate. If you don't pay 100,000, you are not entering.
Still in Parliament, the new Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for Akwatia in the Eastern Region, Mercy Edujemfi, a.k.a.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was, we had the president of the Millennium Excellence Foundation, Mr. Ashimotin, speak earlier, and then we had what happened in Parliament, the near brawl, actually an altercation there in the lobby of Parliament, where we saw the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Carlos Ahinkra, as it were, interrupt an interview that Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa was granting to the press after Parliament sitting. Indeed, we heard what happened subsequently and the fact that the Deputy Minister has apologized and all of that, but we saw that clearly, the near brawl in Parliament, and we find that quite worrying. Indeed, it has been condemned greatly, perhaps necessitating the Deputy Minister's apology. But we will carry on with the conversation in here, having set the perspective or the context with those footage we just saw. So I'll go back to Doc for you to carry on with your
I think let me just summarize on this, because the footage speaks to what happened.
Right.
But I think there are a number of things that for us as Ghanaians, and especially we the citizenry and the voters, we need to more or less ask of our politicians. Number one, this was an act.
Please just hold your thoughts for me there. I need to introduce the presence of Mr. Richard Asante. He is joining us and coming from the NPP. He's a member of the NPP communications team. He's coming in late, but we're happy to have him here. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Abna. I think I'm pretty sorry for getting here late.
That's okay. Yeah. Apology accepted. That's true, very well. That's fine. So yes, Doc.
As I said, number one, this was an allegation that was made by no mean a person. My minority chief whip, Honorable Muntaka. And the allegation was very specific, that people were charged 100,000 Ghana and $25 $100,000 to sit close to the president. The majority and government is saying that whatever he said is lies. So we just leave it like that. There's no any investigation that is being made. And even if it is the case that he's lying or he lied, what happens to him? Somebody just says something of this nature, that the presidency, you have to pay $100,000.
Between 25,000 and 100,000.
Between 25,000 to 100. Where did he get a figure from? And it just ends because the Minister of Trade comes to say that, look, there was no any wrongdoing, so that ends there. I think that is the challenge and the problem that we have in this country, that people just make allegations. I'm not saying that what he said is wrong. That is not what I'm saying. But he has made a specific allegation. And I would have wished and thought that, look, we have state agencies to be able to investigate this issue, such that if he is lying, then he needs to be punished for that. You don't just make wild allegations without substantiating it. And that goes to the Deputy Minister, Carlos Ayenkwa. He says that Okujato is a liar, that he lied through his education, and he makes all kinds of what? All kinds of allegations. His conduct undoubtedly was what? Was unhonorable. It shouldn't be the behavior of a Deputy Minister of State. Then he says he's sorry, and that's it. We just let him go. You get my point? He says he's sorry. He comes on TV and says, I apologize for that, and it goes. So if I, an ordinary lecturer, goes to misbehave towards my superiors, and I say I'm sorry, shouldn't I be allowed to go? I think we need to be very careful the way we conduct ourselves as public officials and people in authority. Because this was an allegation that was made. The allegation, whether it is true or not, is a different issue. But what has emanated out of this whole issue tells the kind of people that we are. And unfortunately, I'm tempted to say that it goes and feeds into the indiscipline that most of our leaders tend to demonstrate. Because I don't think the behavior by Honorable Ayenkwa was the best. And even worse of all, if you listen to Mr. Blackwell later, he said that, look, he's going to leave it to God. I'm told that he's rescinded that decision and he says he's going to pursue it. But I thought that was a very unfortunate position to take, that somebody makes an allegation of this sort against you. Somebody virtually attack you during, what do they call it, an interview. And the best thing that you think you can do is go through or go with the Ghanaian posture of family. No, I don't think that is a good example to be set. If somebody misbehaves, that person needs to be what? Needs to be reprimanded. And this whole posture of give it to God, and that is what is killing this country.
Very well. I'll be moving to Mr. Tetechai in a bit, but the question essentially when I asked earlier was, I was trying to get us to, understand the idea or the concept of fundraising by a private entity with a state agency and using the presence of the president there, if there's any breach in protocol or it's strange. And the reason I'm asking this is there are those who are arguing that well, perhaps take away the fact that there's been some inconsistencies in, you know, what the various government officials have had to say at various points in time. Take away all of that, and let's look at that concept of fundraising as how it was done. Some say that it's done in other jurisdictions.
It's done, listen.
Yes. So what exactly is the concern?
In other jurisdictions. I know of, especially the United States.
Right.
When there's a state program or there's a state dinner where the president is going to be there, people who happen to have donated to the party, people who have donated heavily to the party are the people who get access to the president. But the truth of the matter is that in this particular situation, the organizers and the commentators, that is the players, they've all not been telling us the truth. That is the whole worry. They've not been telling us the truth. Because
so as a concept of fundraising, that in itself, is it problematic or not? Then we unpack it some more.
It needs to be situated within our socio-cultural context.
Sure.
In the sense that in Ghana or within our political arena, we do not have laws, or even if there are laws when it comes to fundraising, political fundraising, they don't work.
But this isn't a political fundraising,
no, but
is it?
I mean, according to what we are being told, they were raising funds for millennial. You don't even know the connection.
That's a private entity.
It's a private entity. But the point being made here is that we are not being told the truth. So it's very difficult for you to be able to say if there is some level of corruption. Because this money that was taken, we don't even know how much they paid. And we are being told by the Minister for Trade that all the money was put into the Ministry of
the Trade and Industries
accounts. I find it quite ironic, because how can somebody be organizing a private program? The private entity says that the only way they make money is through programs of this sort, and they raise money and they put it into the Ministry of Trade and Industries account.
They explained that they have a memorandum of understanding that said they would retain some funds, so they needed to monitor to see.
That is why I'm saying that most of these things we haven't heard the real truth, and that is quite problematic. I don't find anything wrong with the presidency being used to raise funds, but it needs to be done in the right way, and it needs to be done in open. But where you have the Ministry of Trade, which says it was the facilitator of this program, hence it did not collect anything. Did it even, was its opinion sought when it comes to how much was going to be charged? And in fact, if you look at the minister's letter, the minister says that, look, there was even an agreement that the money should be loaded, should be put into the ministry's account. So there's a discrepancy between the deputy minister and the letter that is being issued by the minister himself. And that is where I think it's problematic. And I would have wished that in all of these things, characteristics of Ghana, we'll talk about it within a week, something pops up, then I would have thought that there needs to be proper investigation to authenticate the allegation being made by the minority chief whip. Where did he get the 100,000 figure from? What is his evidence? To find out what the deputy minister said, whether it is true or not. And to also find out what the letter being written by the minister. The minister says that his attention has been drawn to the public, which is not true. He was summoned by the president. So they are all not telling us the truth. And that is very unfortunate. And I find it quite regrettable that this is the way we run the show.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing you say that in terms of concept, it's not strange, it's done. No, it's just the communication, the inconsistencies we are seeing is making it seem like there's something fishy.
I'm not saying it's the communication. What I'm saying is that every society, based on its socio-cultural dynamics, determines how money is raised. Ghana as a country, there are so many, if not, what is wrong with a program being organized where money is being raised and people voluntarily pay? Right. But how do you even render accounts? And if you listen to the narrative of all the players, they don't add up. They don't add up. And that for me is quite problematic.
Quickly, let me move to Honorable Tetichai here. Now let's look at some of the concerns that have been raised in relation to this issue. And with this, I will look at, I will refer to a statement that was, issued by, I think, Okudzeto Ablakwa, the Honorable MP, in a reaction to this development. And he goes on to talk about the fact that he says the office of president in every country is accorded all the respect and dignity, one held in the highest of esteem, and is an embodiment of the ethos and aspirations of its people. It cannot be right or ethical to franchise the office of the president to fundraisers where the highest bidder gains access. Now, against the backdrop of what Dr. Jinapor just said, that using the presidency to raise funds really is nothing new. It's done. But perhaps you look at the context to see how best it would be done in a way that wouldn't necessarily raise issue. So this concern here, is it really something that, you know, is it really a concern that the office of the president is being denigrated or desecrated by using the presidency to raise funds?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, let me say good morning to your viewers and to wish all of them Merry Christmas. And then to the Newday team, I also want to use this opportunity to congratulate them for the various awards that you were able to chalk over the week, especially the morning show, which you are all part of. So it's something worth celebrating.
Thanks.
Yes, I totally agree with Doug that in other jurisdictions, the president, sometimes in certain events, not that he's used as the decoy.
A bait, no.
Exactly. But you see, we operate under ministries, departments, and agencies, and these are governmental agencies. There's nothing wrong when an agency decides to organize an event to promote its activity, and an invitation is extended to the president to be part of that program, where people outside sponsors the event. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you read critically what Honorable Okujato wrote, his concern is the fact that the office of the president being used by a private firm, okay, with collaboration from the ministry, in a way, we need to look at those things. Because for me...
Because of our socio-economic context, which Doc raised.
Exactly. So if it was the ministry that was actually holding the event, then everybody knows that whatever resources come will be in the coffers of the state. Okay? So I don't think we'll sit here and then complain about that. But let's look at the genesis of the whole issue. I was here on Tuesday when the issue broke. And I did indicate that at that particular point, most of the issues that came out had not come out. And I told the host that, look, once Muntaka has raised this issue on the floor, there is some truth in what the minority chief whip has raised in Parliament. And we should put what he said to test. And then the various people who were part of the process started speaking. And in Ghana, we say, Sayo, Nupa Bejalo. Do you understand it?
I do.
Oh, I didn't know you understand Ghana. You see, where there is breakdown of leadership, that is what you see. This one says this, another person says this, the other person says this, and then it makes the whole thing milky. But you see, various leaders within the organization have said different things at different fora. Mr. Ashimotin, some of the things that he said, for me, was in bad taste, especially for the presidency. Because you can't tell me that you've organized an event and you only got to know that the president will be at the event at the 11th hour. And your seat, hey, how do we see the presidency? What leverage in terms of I don't know. How do we place our presidency? And Tuesday, I said it here that, look, the presidency is not for sale. And I said it on purpose. You see, you organize an event. Look, even the statement from the minister has even made the whole thing worse. Let me read the first portion of what the minister said. He said, neither His Excellency, the President, nor any official of the presidency directly or indirectly or even remotely was connected with the said event. The President was invited as a special guest of honor, and he graciously accepted the invitation and attended the event. Now, the same deputy minister had indicated to the press that all what they did in collaboration with the presidency.
That was the deputy minister.
Yes.
This statement is coming from the minister.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
there too, yeah.
So the minister is telling us today a different thing. His deputy also told God, when he sees the press, he said, look, I'm going to tell you the whole truth of the issue. That is what he said. And he said, bring my documents. And then he started pouring out the information to the public. So for me, I've always said that, look, it seems leadership within the government has a challenge. Because for me, if I were the president, this deputy minister will not stay in office after those statements. If really what the minister is saying is the truth.
What if the reverse is the case?
Yeah,
yes,
it's possible.
no, either of the two. Exactly.
Maybe the deputy minister is saying that.
Exactly. You see, but you see, Ghana, you can lie and then go scot free. A minister, look, just recently, Theresa May, her de facto prime minister, that is used to call Danny Green, lied in an issue. Where is he today? He was made to resign. But in this country...
But this culture of people not resigning or not being made to resign, I mean, has been with us
we need
for the
to
longest
insist
time.
that when public servants, people that we use our resources to pay, lie in that manner, they are not fit to be in office. But you see, a statement has just been put to us, and then, but who is telling the truth now? Is it the minister? Is it the deputy minister? It is up to government to come and tell us that the minister lied, the deputy minister lied, and that he's going to suffer for lying to the public.
But we have a statement issued by the presidency that no wrongdoing was...
Exactly. So where are we? Which one are you taking? Is it the deputy minister, the minister? Which one?
No wrongdoing was found. That's what we are told.
So which one are we taking? Because the deputy minister has told us categorically that all what they did was in collaboration with the presidency. And he was talking based on facts. The letters that they wrote, he was the one who signed the letter. And the resources that people were supposed to pay was attached to the letter. So this event was organized in consultation with the ministry. So nobody can tell us that the ministry was not part of the organization. Because the letterhead alone. Because look, why would people contribute? They only contribute when they see that this is a state event. If I attend, there's some form of leverage. Do you get it? So using ministry's letterhead, you can't come out and tell me that you were not part of the organization. We are joking.
But the letter that was issued by or the statement that was issued by the minister, paragraph 6 is talking about the proceeds, if you like.
Yeah, we'll come there.
And all of that, clearly showing that, yes. So there was some level of...
the minister, has indicated that they facilitated the process, which shows their involvement. But the deputy minister told us that, no. You see? And the deputy minister is working freely. And the presidency and the minister is telling us to accept the statement that they have put before the public. Why? Are we not discerning enough? On the issue of resources,
lastly, and then we'll move on to Richard. Yes.
Your mouth. Oh, okay. You don't worry. No. On the resources. Initially, we were told that no, the ministry, they were not going to benefit from whatever was being done, and that the company, all the proceeds, it was with the company. Only for us to be told that the resources was actually put in an account of the ministry, and that disbursements have been made. They have to also keep part of the money. And you see,
and that was pursuant to an MOU that
exactly.
they signed.
And you see, the minority chief would raise an important issue that in this country we have ways of raising resources, and if you look at our internally generated fees and charges act, those things have been specified. Okay. His question is, he said that, let me see. Yes, the monies were not accounted for in their internally generated accounts, because even the deputy minister, that is what he said, that they had nothing to do with the money.
But when the minority chief whip is saying or says that the funds raised, if you like, were not accounted for in the ministry's IGF. This event happened on 8th December, and we are hearing of these issues a couple of weeks after. At what point was that IGF to be accounted for?
Well,
isn't it a bit premature if you're like asking for that sort of accountability? Because at the end of the day,
because
the Auditor General
they want
would
to know
conduct an audit.
how the resources were collected. Okay, so if really the resources is going through their accounts, then definitely that would be a source of IGF. Okay, but in this case,
but he says it wasn't accounted for. Supposing that there was some accountability
at the
process
time that he was
and
making
then
the issue before Parliament, the event had already taken place. Okay, and then as a result of the information that he had, that was why he brought the issue before Parliament. That no, what we are doing is not right. We need to do things the right way. So all what he sought to do was to bring out the matter for us to go into the matter. So for me, maybe we'll come back again.
Sure.
Yeah. I think the information that government brought out to the public has rather made matters worse. And we still need answers to these issues.
Very well.
And for me, as the minority rightly said, it is a cover-up. We need a thorough investigation into the issue so that we will satisfy ourselves. Because as of now, all those who were involved in the organization have given us different accounts.
Let me turn quickly to Richard here. Richard, this issue, I think the two speakers so far have mentioned the fact that indeed fundraising of this nature may not necessarily be wrong, but looking at what has happened subsequently with the inconsistent positions by various government officials, it raises issues. Why the inconsistency?
Thank you very much, Abna, and I would like to say good morning to your viewers and also my co-panel, Doctor, and my brother, Tete Chad. I think we need to put the issues in the right perspective,
which
and also try to do that devoid of politics. Because you see, the moment we marry politics in some of these issues, it drags on and then it invites other people to make outrageous analysis. And I've seen same happening even on social media, especially from even inside MPP and some members of the NDC.
But what's political here? If something has happened, you speak to the deputy minister has a different set of facts, the minister himself has a different set of facts, and other officials. So clearly,
I don't believe that there have been different sets of facts looking at the issues that have been put forward. It depends on the questions that were put to each of these individuals and the context from which they were speaking from. So based on that, I do not see
but
anything.
But the context at all material time in this issue should be the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards.
Of course, I'm talking about the kind of question that was put to the person. Obviously, if you ask me that, do people make contributions, and I say yes, and you go and based on that, you say, oh, it meant that everybody who sat with the president paid money to sit there, then that's wrong. Because indeed, people sponsor the program. But it's not every single individual who sat on the table of the president.
Benefits,
and because I heard, I think the MD from either Japan Motors or one of the companies saying that he sat on the president's table and he did not pay a peso.
He didn't say that, did he? It was, I think, the president of the Millennium Excellence.
No, I'm talking about MD, that he did not pay a peso. I'm talking about MD of a company that participated in the event, saying that he did not pay a peso. So that's what I'm saying, that it depends on how the question is put. But I think if you allow me, I'll just put certain issues here. I think I have a difficulty with Doctor's submission that the Honorable Minister of Trade said that he heard it from the media. He said that his attention has been brought to raging issues on the media.
Exactly.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that it was the media front that first brought the issue to his attention. It is as well, it could as well be that it was the president's letter that preempted him to come to the public to explain matters to them. So his suggesting that the Minister of Trade said that he only heard it in the media. From reading it, that's what he said.
Or just a minute, or that the issuing of the release.
I've read it. I read it, Doc.
Let me read it.
No. I've read it.
I get it. But what I understood from Doc's submission was that first paragraph essentially made it seem as though the release was issued as a result of
no, that's not true. Let me read it. Let me read it. My attention has been drawn to a raging public debate on allegations of extortion of money from expatriate business owners in the run-up to an awards event recently organized in Accra. Does that suggest that he had first said it from the media? He was talking about the fact that his attention had been brought to that matter, but he's also realized that it is being debated upon in the media space.
Richard, please.
But you see, for me, just a minute.
But I read that portion.
Just a minute.
It's the same letter you're holding.
Richard, hold your. But the point is, this shouldn't
be
read as from the substantive.
Of course, I'm going to go to
there are bigger issues than what necessitated this release, really. So let's go on, really. Let's not belabor this issue. Let's move on, yeah.
About what are the issues and what are the facts? We've been told that a private organization, Millennium Excellence Foundation, that occasionally organizes events like that for expatriates, those who are doing businesses in this country. And as part of their yearly programs, one was held, I think, on the 8th of December or thereabouts.
This was actually the first of its kind.
Yeah.
And it was launched.
No, they have other award ceremonies that they do. On this particular one, I think this was, but they've been organizing events of this nature over the years. Because I know that, and I know the organizers of this event. So they organized this event, and they wanted to bring the Ministry of Trade on board. And the Ministry of Trade just became a facilitator. So when people talked about it, when the ministry says that we are not part of the details, the drawn up program for the event, you should understand that. Because it is not the idea. The concept is not coming from them. Somebody brings up an idea, they feel that this is a laudable idea, we can partner, facilitate it. But it does not necessarily mean that all the events leading up to the awards,
the ministry was part of it.
The ministry was part of it. So that was to explain to the general public on that particular segment of what people were putting across. The second aspect that we need to understand was that what role did the ministry play? Because the ministry was bringing their stature and their clouds on this event, they decided to at least make sure that whatever monies that is going to come in can be accounted for. Because indeed the ministry's name will be in there. The president was going to go to the event. That is why the aspect of people's contributions being taken and being paid to an official account. So afterwards, the monies will be audited and whoever got what will be made known. Now we've heard people talk about the fact that people paid monies to receive awards. We've heard it from the NDC.
That is the speculation coming up. They're
because
saying, given all the controversies,
this event, some of us, as we know it, the KPMG was involved in the selection and all those processes. And when you talk about KPMG, you are looking at the international audit firm. It's not a mere, a simple company sitting somewhere that could be coerced to do anything of that nature. So whatever people are trying to do, they need to watch it. When there have been, forgive me because I do appear on other platforms, so sometimes. Abner, there are other issues that I want people to understand and appreciate. Is it that the NDC has, as a matter of fact, that they know companies that paid $100,000 to sit on the president's table? Can they mention companies'
Well,
name?
they say they do.
No, but they did not mention any name. And we've heard some of the companies who participated, and they're saying that they did not pay any amount to that effect.
Richard, let me ask this. You know, paragraph 6 of the minister's statement says, and I read, it says, following the event, the ministry in collaboration with the event organizers have audited the account for the event and can confirm that an amount of 2,667,215 Ghana cedis was raised against an expenditure of so much. Question is, that figure that was, or that amount that was raised, where did it come from?
From the sponsorship people gave.
And those then there were sponsorship packages, right? Yeah. The red circle and all of that. And you're saying that didn't necessarily lead to the positioning or the seating of those people who paid?
I'm sure all of us have been part of programs of session.
Sure.
That sometimes you are told that your contribution determines where you sit. And obviously, events organizers
have... So there were
have
payments?
Of course. I mean, they've never denied that. The event organizers have not denied that. Because you see, even the reason why some of these issues is becoming a bit difficult for even the ministry to handle and to sort of explain is that even people from the MPP are criticizing them because, you know, their difficulty. They claim that all the company that organized the events are NDC individuals.
I mean, I don't want us to go into the speculation. There are facts that we have to deal with, and we are looking at it. Yes,
it's a known fact. If you allow me, I think.
Carry on. Yes.
You see, we know Ambassador Victor to be an NDC person. It was a known fact. We know Mr. Aship Motin to be an NDC man, financier.
Richard, let's be fair to them. This is
if you allow me.
But no, you're making certain points that I don't want us to carry the conversation on that tangent because it would. But let me just put things straight. This is a foundation that has a governing body, and the person at the head of the governing body is Ambassador Beho.
And the CEO
and there's a president who, yes. So we are looking at this entity organizing this thing. Now you're bringing in this speculation that this NDC, and I think it's not helping the it won't help the conversation.
I'm sure you would have seen the drift.
It won't help the conversation. It would have been helpful
for the conversation if you allow
we need to take a break, but you carry on. Submit and your submission, and then yes.
Because the point is that there's sort of lies being told on this matter. There's sort of accusation, and the people painting the picture that people were involved in corruption and people were duping people, and they are not ready to listen to people that they can place a call to.
But you see,
Richard, when the minority and their team can simply place a call to.
Richard, I'm sorry I come across as issues that interjecting, but it's to help the conversation, you understand. Not too long ago, you said the reason, or you admitted that indeed the ministry is trying to, it's struggling to explain issues.
Some of our people
so that's an admission.
Why will you even get yourself involved with this company?
But that's an admission of something. And the point is, with these struggles, it clearly raises or paints a certain picture. And painting that picture, people are asking legitimate questions, and you think that is not
if you allow me my concern. If you allow me my moment to explain and also make my submission to help, because it has appeared that right from the word go there have been series of interjections.
Yes, but rightly so, because I need to do that.
You do not even allow me to finish a sentence.
Carry on.
And that's the difficulty.
Carry on.
Because I realized that my brothers had a field day and
don't even start that. Yeah. I come in when I have to, so carry on.
Noted, So you see, because of this kind of discussion happening, where people are asking questions that, is it that these people who belong to this particular political organization and they could provide them with the answers, Because they are the event organizers. Is it that they are failing to provide answers to their minority in Parliament? Is it that they are failing to let them know whatever it is that transpired? What is it that they are providing to them that is making them create the impression that somebody within the presidency or the Ministry of Trade did something untoward? These are the reasons why some of our own people, members of the MPP, are questioning that. Why will you get yourself involved in these companies? These are some of the things. The point is that when it happens like this, going forward, people will be much more careful when they are getting themselves involved in any company, and they want to then look at it beyond political lines. So these are the facts that we need to understand. The other thing that I want us to appreciate is that, Abena, are we saying that these expatriates are complaining that the monies were extorted from them? Has anybody come to complain? It was sponsorship package. People were asked to contribute. Some did. I know about 4 or 5 companies who are claiming that they did not pay special for where they sat. It wasn't compulsory for people to contribute. At the end, they also felt that they had the means and they could contribute. They contributed their quota in support of the program. The ministry has come out to indicate to us that what was realized was 2.6 million thereabout. And the expenditure for the event came out around 2.3 million thereabout, leaving about 300,000 as possibly profit for the company and maybe proud back into the future organization of such events. Are we saying that, knowing all these facts, are we still going ahead to say that somebody did something untoward? Did the package include just sitting? We've heard about hotel accommodations, ticketing for 2 of the top management of the companies to fly to wherever it is. There are other events that were supposed to be. So it meant that it was a bouquet.
You are looking at the use of the funds raised. But I think the fundamental questions people are asking has to do with circumstances leading to
when you are looking at the circumstances, you must as well look at what the monies were used for. For instance, you invite me to TV3 and ask me that, okay, when you are walking into TV3, there's a package that requires that you are giving water, you are giving breakfast, you are giving this, you are giving a hotel accommodation if you pay 500 cedis. There's also a package that says that you'll be giving only sachet water if you pay 1 cedi. If I walk in and say, okay, you know what, I would prefer to have a hotel and all those things with the top of the range champagnes and all that, and I pay my 500 cedis, and somebody comes in and pay 1 cedi, and guess whatever package that has been tabled in terms of the list that was presented before the person. Can somebody sit somewhere and talk about the fact that people were compelled or forced, or people were made to pay money to sit with the president? Are we saying that? Don't we know events in this country being organized where people make contribution to that event? Can we then rope in the ministry? At least we know Mr. Chamantin over the years. Have you had any iota of corruption allegation being leveled against him and the way he conducts his business? We've known the presidency. So when the president comes to tell you that he has asked the ministry to explain the circumstances leading to these raging controversies in the media space, and he presents the information, and the president looked at that with his team and looked at the issues and the bare facts as presented to him, and realized that indeed there's no iota of truth in whatever they. But indeed, when it comes to the minority, at every point in time, the allegation will be made, even among themselves. Remember Mutakai's allegation. He made allegation pointing fingers at his own people, NDC people, Honorable Kujato and others, saying that the majority chief whip was corrupt and he's taking bribe and all that. Well, how did it turn out to? So will you want to hang people because the minority are just making allegations and complaining about events?
We need to take a break.
To do that.
We need to take a break, Richard.
And that is what they are known for.
Thank you, Richard. We need to take a break. We'll be back shortly to continue with this. We'll wrap up this topic and move on to some other topics we've lined up for conversation this morning. You're watching and listening to Newday Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Newday Saturday edition. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 here in Accra. We're also streaming live around the world on 3news.com. Also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. We'll be wrapping up on the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards which has erupted into a great deal of controversy. We're trying to see where we go from here. I'll go back to Honorable Tetechai. Give me your concluding remarks on this issue as we need to wrap up.
Yeah, Abena, to say the truth, the presidency is not helping matters to be resolved. Because any discerning Ghanaian, based on the facts that have been brought out from the various people who were involved in the organization, clearly, information that has been turned out are different based on the person who is talking. And all these things have come about as a result of the outburst of the deputy minister. And I'm saying that, look.
You're saying it's come about because of his outburst. If he hadn't...
Of course, because at that particular moment, the minister had not come out. And you see, if you are a deputy minister, you only respond to issues with the tacit support from your minister. That is how we run the ministry, okay? But if you have deputy ministers who can overrun their ministers, this is what will happen. Because if there were to be adequate consultation, I don't think we'll be having the conflicting statements that we've had. And this is the more reason why His Excellency the President should revoke the appointment of this deputy minister. Because he has put the office of the president into disrepute.
No, so in other words, then you are saying then that outrightly you believe Mr. Alan Chematin's position or account, and not that.
You know why?
Saying,
even
without going into the issues.
You see,
by perhaps
I'm just drawing the attention of the president based on the statement they themselves have released. Because if the presidency agrees that what Alan Chematin has told him are the facts, okay, then you conclude that what the deputy minister did was wrong. Okay? So do you keep such a person in office? That is the question we are asking. So whatever they've brought out, they themselves are entangling themselves into controversy. And for me, the integrity of the president and the presidency needs to be intact. So they should tell us which of them. But the presidency has come out to say that what Alan has told them are the facts. So what about what the deputy minister told us? What punishment as a nation are we putting out to this deputy minister?
Very well, let me move quickly to Doc.
Well, I think this issue is quite bigger than as we see it.
It's still unfolding.
Yes, and it's still unfolding, but it looks as if we are getting to a conclusion. In the sense that you have an allegation being made by a senior member of parliament, I think on the floor of parliament, right? On the floor. And it's captured in the records that an amount of 25 to 100,000 dollars was being paid to sit to the president, close to the president.
Yeah, close.
And based on what the minister is saying, his reports, what the ranking member said was false. What happens? I think we need to get to the bottom of it. People don't just make allegations. And if the allegations made by Honorable Muntaka are true, he needs to try as much as possible help us to what? To get to the bottom of it. That said, it's also important to know that this document, which is supposed to bring finality to this issue, was under the instruction of the president. When all these things was happening, what did the minister do? Did the minister, out of his own evolution, conduct this investigation? No. It was the president who called him and asked him what is going on, conduct an investigation. I think that in itself is a little bit problematic when it comes to the minister, because the minister should have been in a position to...
should have stepped in much earlier.
Much earlier. I mean, definitely. Why should the presidency be brought into this whole issue? I think generally the way we conduct ourselves, and that for me is extremely important. Public officials, the way they conduct themselves, and it looks as if Ghanaian politicians seems not to be well prepared when it comes to managing their emotions. You know, this is not the first time. We've had at least a deputy minister being removed from office. The deputy agric minister. You remember, was it the same deputy minister for trade who said the foreigners were whining? No, there was another.
He went and fought at an assembly meeting.
I don't know about that one.
Oh, no.
That's fine. I think management of emotions is very important. You don't say anything if you are not prepared for it. You don't just speak to the cameras and the, what do they call it, the mics, just because they are in front of you. The tape that you played regarding the deputy minister really is appalling, and I think the apology that is being rendered is cannot be one that is acceptable. I think he needs to be punished.
Very well. We move on to Richard, your concluding remarks, and then we go on.
We need to understand that in this country, if we can make a headway, we cannot just allow sweeping allegations and non-substantiated allegations to take a better part of us. Evidence is the name of the game. If you accuse people, you ought to substantiate it with substantial substance. You can't just go about making pronouncements and just say because you said it, people should be relieved of their post because it's coming from you. That's what I'm saying, that we've had a semblance of that in Parliament early this year when Honorable Mahama Yarga and Honorable Kujato made allegations against their own members of Parliament, the majority chief whip then, Honorable Mutaka, about the fact that they took bribes in approving the nomination of Honorable Boache Jackson. They made those allegations. And there was investigations. And after the investigation, it came out that indeed whatever they were saying was just something, a figment out of their own imagination.
Which is why people
and when they were asked even to apologize, look at the sorry state of the sorry kind of apology that they made.
So then you agree with those calling for a probe into this?
But what the president did is a semblance of a probe.
It's a semblance.
Of course it is. It ought to be taken. But obviously, if you want to follow the NDC and the accusation, because the point is that over the period, all the allegations that they've been making, especially on this particular issue, they've not mentioned one company, a single company that has paid $100,000 to sit with the president. They've not made mentioned any company that are alleged or going to complain or said anything about the fact that they've been duped. They've not said anything. And I did indicate earlier on that if they want further information and particulars on this matter, the organizers of these events are NDC people, Mr. Victor Bo and Ashimoti. They should go and ask for further information from them.
That's fine. I think we can move on.
If they need further information, they are their mates. These are even financiers of your party. Go and ask for further information from them. That's true.
Richard,
are they not NDC members? Mr. Bo, you're not an NDC member.
Richard, please.
We
need to move on.
Richard, Mr. Ashimoti is an NDC member.
Richard,
go and ask for further information.
Allow me.
Really?
Please. I mean, you reiterating where Mr. Ambassador Behu is coming from is not needed because he himself,
for more information.
Just a minute, he himself said it at the press conference. So I mean, you don't have to rehash it here. He said it categorically. It's not an open secret. So I don't think we need to. But we need to move on. We need to move on.
That's my point.
We need to move on now. We're going to be looking at the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives budget of about 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, which has sparked public outreach. But before then, I'll take some messages coming in from viewers and listeners. This one is coming in from Kofi Said. He says, the issue of offering seats to the highest bidder to sit closer to the president amounts to exposing the president to danger. We are in an era where suicide bombers will stop at nothing to cause harm to innocent people, including themselves. He refers to this incident as rather unfortunate. Good morning, Abna. The assault on some journalists at the NPP headquarters is rather disgraceful and unfortunate. Vigilantism and macho activities in our body politics is becoming the order of the day, and we all must condemn it. However, it's left to the media to advise itself appropriately on this account. That's Isahako and Tamale. Fidelis in Accra says, good morning to you, Abna, and your panelists. I strongly agree with Mr. Tetechai that the president must relieve the trade and industry minister together with his proxies of their duty simply because they drag this nation's image into the mud. Another one coming in says, good morning, Abna, and your panelists. If what has gone on in the past 11 months is the competence we were promised before December 7, 2016, then I'm saying it's simply a case of Mukwaya ni Mukwa ba chop chop scenario. Ghanaians have been short-changed. Kojo in Peki says, Abna, under NPP, apologies have become an option to reprimand people for wrongdoings. We were in this country when Muntie 3, after rendering apologies, were thrown into jail. From Bright Kotokwame, he says, are these the people who claim they are setting up the office of special prosecutor to fight corruption, when corruption in itself gets that much ingrained and has percolated every strand of the NPP government? In less than a year, we all saw the massive and deliberate corruption that engulfed Bust. Now, the presidency is now being offered to the highest bidder. Are these the elements who claim they have integrity? That's your question. Let me take one last one and we go to the second topic. This is Abdul Basit in Kumasi. It says, good morning. I'm glad the award winners and the organizers of the Expert Trade Business Awards confirmed to Ghanaians no monies were extorted from them to sit next to my able president. The lies and propaganda of NDC will not wash. Now I say I equal to Honorable Sadiq Boniface, Minister for Inner City and Zongo Development. Okay, thank you for your messages so far. Please keep sending them through. We'll be happy to read them and share them with the rest of the world. But for now, we're moving on to the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives budget, which has caused a stir. 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, and a number of the budget lines have been questioned, looking at issues such as the allocation to website development, furniture acquisition, and a number of some rather interesting descriptions in the budget lines. We'll be looking at that. Now, before we look at some of those specifics, I would want us to, first of all, deal with the excuse or the reason Parliament gave for passing or approving this budget, which has come to be known as, you know, if you like, a problematic budget. I'll start with you, Honorable Tetechai, because you have been in Parliament for some time. And we are made to understand or believe that Parliament was constrained in the circumstances, and so it had to pass this budget, even in the face of all these concerns that had been raised. Honorable, the Majority Leader raised concerns about that, and a number of issues came up. Nonetheless, Parliament went ahead to pass. So my concern is Parliament, the body mandated by the Constitution to be a check on the use of the public purse, is saying that, well, we were constrained, so we had to go ahead and pass or approve this budget. And now it's coming out that Parliament approved over and above what really the ministry needs. Because if you're looking at, for instance, just the website development allocation, there's a variance there of 720,000. I mean, clearly, Parliament's role is now questioned then.
You see, per the information that we've gotten from the Majority Leader, they tried to play that it was some form of mischief that was being played, and that per the document he had, the specific amount was 80,000. But then the documents that were distributed to the members had a different value. Just to support the point that the amount of money that people are raising eyebrows are not actually what is in that document.
The one he has. Well, I haven't heard that, but that's what you're saying.
No, he said it on Joy.
So he had, so only him.
Well, that is what he is saying.
But in any case, the minister, the sector minister, if you like, Madam Hawa Kumsin, herself has come out to say that it was a typographical error. So whether or not the Majority Leader had the correct, the point is Parliament approved the budget or the document that contained the typographical error.
You know, normally when budgets are brought to the House, and then there are some specific errors, Parliament has a way of correcting those errors before the actual...
But that didn't happen this time.
That didn't happen.
And that's why I'm asking the question, Parliament's role.
Exactly. And that is why the good people of this country are questioning why this amount was allowed to go through. Is that not it?
Yes.
Yeah. For me, I think that we need to change the way we do things, especially oversight, our oversight role in Parliament. We really need to change the way we do things, because these are resources. Somebody will say, oh, it is a budget, okay? But when we talk of budgets, budgets are supposed to be prepared within reasonable limits. especially on issues of procurement. I've been on several procurement entities, and I can tell you for a fact that at the end of the year, when such entities are bringing their procurement plans for approval, we don't just approve the resources they have indicated in those areas. You say you want to buy air conditioners. What is the current cost of an air conditioner on the market? Okay. How much, maybe in terms of plus or minus, have you added to that item within a reasonable limit? If it is 10%, okay, our entity will approve it. But if an item is being sold, let's say, at 100,000, and then you state 500,000 for that item, and you tell me it is an estimate, I will not allow that thing to be approved. It means if I'm to approve that thing, I have not done due diligence. Because at the end of the day, if all those resources are made available, it means I have approved that that thing can be bought at that amount. But you see, this issue that came out really.
But before you, tell us, when Parliament says it's constrained or it was constrained and so it had to approve, what exactly does that mean?
It's because of the time frame under which this thing was brought. Do you get it? And it happens. And that is why I have always said that, look, things that come up, especially within the dying moments of Parliament,
last days are dangerous.
We need to be very, very mindful of how we scrutinize those documents. And that is exactly what has occurred. But I'm very happy that we have a minority that is actually doing its due diligence, that is oversight, making sure that some of the things that this government wants to do will not see the light of day. And we need to congratulate Haruna Idrisu and the entire minority group for this exemplary issue that they've brought to the fore. That has made everybody to know exactly what is before the good people of this country. So for me, yes, the mistake has been done, but they have the numbers, definitely. And they need to pass the appropriation for government to be able to spend, because Parliament can no longer be extended beyond that period.
You said the mistake has been done, and the mistake here you're talking about the fact that Parliament...
Oh, yes.
So on that, quickly, before I go to Richard here, so what do you say to those calling for the head of the minister? Because yes, she brought this, she's saying it was a typographical error. Yeah. Now you went ahead nonetheless to approve it, and then you turn around and ask or call for her head. Is that justified?
You see, that is why I brought the issues of procurement to the fore, so that we'll be able to distinguish between what is happening and the rules in the House. Okay? The minority is now looking at what the minister has presented in terms of the resources that she wants to spend, okay? And the amounts that have been allocated for the items that she wants to purchase. And that is where the minority is now looking at. You brought your budget. At the end of the day, Parliament has realized that there are certain challenges. Yes, the budget has been passed, but it doesn't mean that once the budget has been passed, the good people of this country should not question the basis for which these resources have been allocated. And me, that one thing comes to mind. I believe the current ambassador to India, if he's in the country for the holidays, my friend Makokwe, he has a famous saying, for Chobo. You quite remember?
Chobo, yeah.
Every program that he comes. You forgot it. You forgot it.
Yes, carry on.
For Chobo. You quite remember? And it's as a result of procurement issues. And in those days, they were matching projects that entities were doing okay, against governmental projects. And they were calling members of the NDC as, excuse me to say, in quote, thieves. Okay? One may ask, if you look at how resources have been allocated this year in the budget, it's very terrible.
Yes, but I'm asking, is that justification for her resignation, or
you
that
see,
she should be fired, which is...
She herself has recognized. I want you to play the tape.
You carry on.
You have it. He said, oh, yes, I'll resign. I'll resign. She said it. Because she's messed up. She knows that she's messed up. Because you are the minister. You are the one responsible. So, if you don't know that a borehole does not cost more than 1,500 in this country, and a single borehole can cost over 332,000 Ghana cedis. A single borehole.
Is it 132 or 300? I think it's
132,000 Ghana cedis.
Was it just a borehole?
It's a mechanized borehole.
Mechanized
but there are
borehole.
other quotations in the industry that give other prices. So
You
that's
can't remember
but
PURC.
I think you need to be wrapping up. 20 seconds to wrap up, and I move to Richard. Because you've spoken at length, really. You're giving it away so that I can quickly move on. Yes. I think, okay, wrap it up for me.
But I believe we are going to take them.
Yeah, we will definitely go into that.
Yes,
but you didn't quite address the issue about the resignation bit, even though you're saying she herself is saying that.
Exactly.
But that's fine. But why some people, I mean, you would approve it and then turn around to, I find that quite, a bit
incongruous.
Yeah, but that's okay. Let me move to you now, Richard. Let's go back to the nature and being of this Ministry of Special Development Projects. It was one of the 6 newly created or new ministries that were created by the president. And if I remember correctly, in explaining why the ministries were created and how they were going to function, the president said, and I think I have a quote here from the Chronicle on 13th of January 2007, it says, all these 6 portfolios will be working under the umbrella of the Office of the President. They are not standard ministries that are going to be established. The ministries involved would find their, and here's the operating phrase for me, their being in the budget of the Office of the President, right? Now, this is a quote that came from the President. So if this is it, then why, first of all, why even the budgetary allocation to the ministry? When the Office of the President is supposed to be the umbrella, entity that, from whose budget?
They'll be drawing from.
Exactly.
I think the function of the Office of the President and the various ministries is in such a way that, in terms of budgeting, it is possible that you can look at the overall budget of the Office of the President. But in terms of approval, you look at the individual items that form part of that.
So you're saying that the overall budget of the
that
Office
one
of the
can be looked
President
at. That will be there. But when you're
factored in this 1.2?
That's what I'm not certain about that. I don't want to really.
Clearly not. From the facts that we have. Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that I'm trying to give you an explanation to the fact that sometimes you can have an overall budget, but in terms of approval, they look at the details, every single details.
Which is what Minister Tetechai was
trying to
explain
to. But I've seen this aspect about the issue of some of the figures being errors or issues about the figures.
The exorbitant nature of it.
Of course, some of them are quite outrageous from the look at it. And we've heard explanation to the effect that some of them are errors because... At
least one. So far, there's just one we've heard is a typographical error.
Heard that some of them are errors from the ministry.
Which ones?
I was tempted to I was tempted to believe I was going to be surprised at it, but the point is that I was taken aback because I said to myself, okay, Printer's Devil is real. It became real to us in this country when at a point in time our president became Hulu Kenyatta. You remember in the independence brochure, when people did not purpose in their mind to do that, it did happen. It means that there are certain things that could happen. But my difficulty was with the parliamentary approval when they realized that some of the figures were quite incongruous and also was quite upset to say the least. So I thought that maybe they would have just put the brakes on that and looked at it further. But I know that in some of the figures that we are being asked to consider, and from the standpoint of the president and the government, and our attitude in wanting to make sure that we make good use of the scarce resources available to the state to achieve maximum for the country. I know that the presidency and the president under Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo will not look on and allow any outrageous spending to be made, regardless of which ministry that we are talking about.
But before you go on that, let me just say this. In Parliament, no, but you've said something which I think, you see, I hope you don't think I interject just for the sake of it. I think it's a conversation we're having, people are listening, and we need to, seek further clarification, yes. But that you're saying you don't think the president and the government would look on to see these things, pass through and all. But whether or not it's passed depends on Parliament, the role of Parliament. And we've already seen an instance where it's gone through. And it's because of the numbers.
No, this wasn't because of the numbers. This particular one was unanimously approved.
Unanimously,
so
yes.
You can't say that anybody will...
But ultimately, it will come down to numbers at some point.
I'm saying that at that moment, and the NDC did not object to it in terms of voting. They voted for it. It was unanimous. So unanimous meant that both sides agreed to it. But though they raised questions, it's fair to put those issues to bear. I know that the minority raised issues about that, and even the majority.
And it still went through.
The majority, Honorable State Chairman Sabonsu, said, you know what, these figures ought to be looked at again. But you see, there's one thing that I've realized in terms of budgeting over the years. There's this perception that when ministries or MMDAs, agencies and departments put together their budgets, whatever that they require for their projects, sometimes they get even 20%, 10% of it.
These are just estimates.
Yeah, and these are real in our times. So there's this mindset that, okay, if I project 100,000 for a government to be given to me, I'm going to end up getting 10,000. Why don't I say I need 200,000?
But I don't think it works out that way.
No, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm trying to give you an understanding that there are all manner of explanation being given. I've followed this discussion. I hope you get it. But the point is that at the end of the day, there are some of the figures that ought not to find themselves within the budget. Looking at how it is.
Yes,
and the
they
fact
found
that
themselves
when you look at it, it doesn't really make much sense to some of us. And so these are some of the things that we need to look at carefully. There's another thing that I want us to understand. I've already indicated that I thought that the Parliament will put the brakes on it. Because in our system of democracy, there ought to be checks and balances. And you expect Parliament to check on the executive, not only on press conferences, but literally putting a stop, halting a process to make sure that the needful is done. When they know that they have legitimate questions that ought to be answered. And in this particular situation, you realize that it was sort of in uniformity, where the two sides agreed that in this regard, these particular figures were quite outrageous. And they were all of them, the majority leader spoke to it, that you know what, you can't get that. And I've put on my Facebook page asking that if you want to ask that creating of possibly a website ought to cost the country 800,000. Are we printing dictionaries or printing what? I hope you're getting me. So it ought not to happen. So some of the figures, you look at it and you think that, you know what, but the point that ought to be made to Ghanaians is that not a single penny have been spent. It's just a budget proposals that have been approved by Parliament. Government has not released even a single dollar. Government will make sure that the needful is done. No amount has been spent. It is not the same as what we possibly saw in the past that maybe my brother was trying to allude to, where we're looking at, because I remember those times I was part of the people who were busily making comparisons about how much MTN as part of their corporate social responsibilities were building such unit.
But isn't it early days yet?
And how much it was costing the country.
Isn't it early days yet?
You see, that is why, you see, in government, there will be all manner of things happening. But if you have a determined leader, a president who is dedicated to make sure that he protects the public purse, he will make sure that all avenues are exploited to make sure that same is done.
Even where Parliament claims to be constrained.
There have been a lot of budgetary approvals in Parliament that there was no funding for. Haven't you seen that? Honorable Tete, even your own constituency. I'm sure you can mention 1 or 2 things that have been approved.
Don't say things that you don't know.
Of course, you obviously you know that within your constituency, maybe not even during your tenure, but at every point in time, government resources are not able to fund the entire. Sometimes we rely on even donors and other things. Sometimes even get revenue shortfalls.
Well.
When it happens like that, we are not able to literally do all the things that you project to do within a particular period. So I'm saying that not a single, because I've realized that there's this eyebrows and people, it's good that people are getting interested in all these things and they are raising questions, they are raising issues. It's good for
it helps very well.
I beg you, let me conclude on that. So Ghanaians, let's bear in mind, your money is safe, not a dollar or a penny have been spent as the NDC want us to believe.
Very well, Richard. Thank you for that.
Let me just add a point.
10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Abna, I'm sure.
Are you going back to this?
Yeah.
Or you're responding to something
no, I'm
he said?
Responding
quickly,
to
yes. Then.
Since my colleague is not aware of the budgeting process, okay? No, hold on. I'll tell you the reason why. Before budget comes to Parliament, the ministry, that's finance, has sat down with the various departments and agencies and have agreed on what the government thinks he can do for them. Okay? Now, issues of procurement. You were trying to say that, although they've quoted this amount, government will not fund all that amount.
But there will be an opportunity to check.
Yeah, let me remind you.
What we're saying.
In bringing this amount to the House, in terms of the allocations that have been made, it means government has agreed that with the amounts that you've indicated, we can fund those resources for those projects.
But Parliament still has a say.
Exactly.
Which is what we expect Parliament to do then.
So don't create the impression.
That's fine.
No, so don't create. No, please.
That is okay.
Don't create the impression that because government will not release the money.
Let me move to Doc here, and let me hear Doc on this. So yes, the 800,000 Ghana cedis, it turns out, is a typographical error. Yes. So that has been assuming indeed that were the case. What about others? Example, the 2 million Ghana cedis allocated to the preparation of the budget.
Well, I think I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But you see, I think this whole issue needs to be situated within a context. And I always prefer to look at these issues in a bigger picture. Bigger picture in the sense that, number one, we are talking of a ministry. We are not talking of a minister of state. It's a ministry, full-fledged ministry.
Well, we are told it's supposed to be.
No, it's a ministry.
The office of the president.
No. It's a ministry. It has a chief director. Go and check.
To quote the president, they are not standard ministries
that is the problem now.
that are going to be established. So the understanding back then in January was that.
But now it's a ministry. The woman is a minister of a sector, just as Minister of Defense. She's not. No, it's a ministry. Honestly, go and check.
So on what basis are you saying that?
No,
because my basis for saying that it's not a standard ministry is the president.
Now, Richard, Richard,
yes.
Fantastic. He says it's not a standard ministry.
That's what the president said. Yes.
You understand? It is not a traditional ministry, like education, like interior, like defense. This
the ones
ministry,
that have physical structures.
Let me get that. This ministry is called Ministry of Special Development what? Initiatives. Special development. When we say something is special, it means it is out of the norm. It is out of the norm. And this ministry was created by His Excellency the President based on the promises that they gave. I mean, the ministry came about emanating from the MPP manifesto. And I thought it was a very good idea. I thought it was a very good idea. Special initiatives where, as a country moving forward, based on the audacious nature of the president, where he wants to move this country out of the Goggesberg style of, administration to a modern Ghana where we become competitive. He created a ministry called what? Special Initiatives Ministry. So I was looking at the ministry coming to do what? Special things. Special things.
And like you said, to drive the agenda of the manifesto.
That is it. So when you have a ministry, the way that you are able to track what the ministry will do depends on what they spend their money on. In fact, I'm not going to get into the issue of whether it's a budget, but this is what the ministry hopes to do. When we say a budget, this is what I want to do. And let's look at some of the items, Abra. Some of the items that the ministry wants to look at. Number one, apart from wanting to buy 20 SUVs, 20 within this year, and we are talking of an SUV that costs $500,000. That is more than $100,000. That is more than 100.
I have a contradictory figures to what you
No, this is what I'm reading from the news. Let me finish, Richard.
No, just a minute.
People have done a new case and they're circulating.
I'm not using this table.
Okay, so hold your horses, please, just a minute. Take it easy. Exactly. Take it easy.
It does
yes.
appear that people have created their own tables
so, yes.
with new figures and they're circulating.
So take it easy.
So I don't know what figures you have.
Please
so
mention the figure. Just a minute. 10 million, right? Approved for 24-wheel drives. 20. And so it works out to...
No, it's 24-wheel drives
yes.
at a unit cost of 500,000.
Gentlemen.
So if 500,000, if you look at the exchange rates, that is more than $100,000. Is that all right?
SUV.
Please proceed.
Then it goes down to say that what? Procurement of 275 ambulances. Ambulances, Richard. We are talking of under the Ministry of what? Special Development what? Initiative. Why should the Ministry of Special Development Initiative be procuring what? Ambulances.
Chop.
No, I didn't say that. Those are not my words.
No,
I didn't say that.
Honorable Mr. Tetechai, exercise restraints. Yes,
I'm
please.
not even looking at the amount. I'm looking at what that ministry is doing.
Yes.
A Ministry of Special Development Initiatives, and your job is to procure
the
ambulances.
Duplication of roles.
Construction of 50 warehouses. Well, that can be a special development program, because if you look at the agenda of planting for food, and you need warehouses. So that I don't have a problem. Construction of 1,000 solar powered mechanical boreholes.
Doc, please hold your horses there. We need to take a break to check on the technicality. So please, we need to do that. So please just
not reading them, but I mean,
we will take a short break. We'll come back shortly. You're watching and listening to Newday Saturday edition. We'll be back. Welcome back. You are watching Newday Saturday edition live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7. We'll be going back to the panel to conclude on the discussion in respect of the Ministry for Special Development Initiatives. I believe Dr. Ahmed Junapo was making his submission when we had to take that break. So I'll go back to him for him to conclude.
Well, I think the point that I was making was that there are certain ministries that, when you look at the rationale that informed their setting up, you tend to wonder if by what they do, they don't only duplicate what the other traditional ministries are doing. Because if you take a ministry like Special Development Ministry, I think it's by the name, it's a very good ministry, and it's one that, as a country, there are certain areas that we need to more or less pay attention to, which are not captured in our traditional ministries. For instance, the NPP came out with this audacious policy of what? For food and jobs, where individuals will be encouraged to get into farming, they get jobs, and we get food. So if you have a ministry that is supposed to more or less spearhead such an agenda, or complement it, because definitely it's under the Ministry of Agri, by building warehouses, I think it's a laudable project. If you have a Ministry of Special Development Initiative that is supposed to be involving one district, one factory, and ironically, it seems the one district, one factory project is not even under this ministry. You talk of one village, one dam. It's not all under this ministry. But the ministry is engaged in buying ambulances. I mean, building toilets, building markets, boreholes. In fact, what is even worrying for me is that you have a ministry that is being set up with what? A seed money of about 148 million Ghana cedis to be building toilets. Then you ask yourself, where is the value for what? For money. Where is the value for money? And I've heard people say that, look, this is a budget. Yes, a budget is an estimate, but it is an estimate that is being accepted, that based on our income and our resources, they are going to be paid for. So in principle, what it means is that the Ministry for Special Development Initiatives has been earmarked 20 Land Cruisers for this year. Has been earmarked 20 Land Cruisers.
2018. 20
Land Cruisers in what? In 2018. But I'm now coming to the issues. That what brought about this issue? Why are we in a position to even discuss this issue? Because there was a mistake. There was a typographical error, so to speak. Had it not been the 80 versus the 800,000 websites, maybe these issues wouldn't have come up.
No, I think really, to be fair, I think the exorbitance of the figures did come up initially.
But the bedrock,
and then it was later that
the bedrock of all this issue had to do with what?
The
website.
Yes.
That is it. The bedrock of all this debate has to do with what? The website. But even on the website issue, let's face it, Honorable Tetecha has been in government and he can give us an explanation of how these things work. But my common sense experience tells me that, look, before a document of this sort is laid before Parliament, the floor of Parliament, it goes through a whole lot of processes. It goes through a whole lot of processes, right from the ministry, through the Ministry of Finance, through the select committee on what? On finance at Parliament, and nobody captured it to the extent that it was passed. 80 to 800,000 is quite an exorbitant difference. Exorbitant difference. So I'll conclude on this point. Look, I've heard people say that the Honorable Minister should resign. I don't buy into that. I don't think she should resign. If it's because of this typographical error. If there's anybody who's supposed to resign, then it's a cumulative, what do they call it? Because there are a lot of people who should have detected it. So it's not just her. From her ministry, through finance, through the select committee on finance at Parliament, even to Parliament, and even when you listen to the narrative is such that there's a whole lot of discrepancy. The majority leader is saying that the document with them is different from what NDC is putting out. Meanwhile, just right now, the minority leader and the majority leader has said that a motion has been filed to amend whatever has been passed, such that the minister cannot spend the 800,000. If she spends, she has to provide explanation. And even it goes further to say that, look, when the Minister for Finance comes for mid-year review or something like that, you have to explain whether the money has been spent or not. So what are we talking about? You are talking of a document being given to you, which is different from what is being put out there. Meanwhile, there's an amendment. Do you get my point? So I think that, as a country, we need to be very, very mindful of our expenditure. We need to. Because look, this thing is like déjà vu. I remember at a point in time when NDC was building 6 classroom blocks, NPP was saying that, look, it was too expensive. And they did the comparison with Kufuor's time.
Oh, and recently, 2016,
yes,
DRC construction
you realize those times, let me finish. Those times, NDC used to say that, look, this is not an ordinary classroom block. There are a lot of fittings. Today, it's 770,000. And the explanation is that there are Ashanti says that I would want this administration to be mindful of the fact that, look, 2016 was not an ordinary election. It was an election where the good people of this country were angry about the things that had gone on. For me, the 2016 election was more or less a revolution. So if we are going to be doing the same things, the same old things, in a different way, I don't think the good people of this country are going to forgive the administration. I will say that the figures that are being put out there are astronomical. They are too big. How can you be building a borehole? What kind of borehole are you building for 132,000 Ghana? 1.3 billion old Ghana city. What kind of borehole is it? I mean, why? 132,000 for one borehole, my brother. 132. Let me finish. What is it?
As much as I agree that the figures cannot be contained in any circumstances, but the description there was mechanized borehole with solar.
No matter what it is,
that's what I'm saying,
my brother. Look,
if
we have
mechanized.
Are you? Let me listen. Richard,
it's not like
let me tell Richard something. I hear you. Listen. A mechanized borehole. Let me finish.
Thank you. Let him.
1.2 billion things.
A mechanized borehole with solar, whatever it is is not it's not a novelty.
I mean,
we have some there now.
Exactly, on the open market.
We have some in the open market, and in fact, we have some in Daman. We have seen some, and I know some being built by private individuals for free, and I know how much it costs. Like somebody building that kind of borehole and donating it to the community. I know how much it costs. 132,000.
Please let him.
Look, my brother, the fact of the matter is that these things, when we criticize some of these things, is to your advantage. Because as people say, when somebody is cutting the road, he doesn't know whether his back is meandering or not. But, I mean, this is too much an amount of money. So, as we said, it's a budget. Budget does not necessarily mean that it can be reviewed. Yeah. And we will hope that these things are reviewed.
So that the money has been spent.
We will hope that these things are reviewed, because I think it's quite too much.
Very well. Honourable Teticha, I know you would want to go into the specifics to, and then, but let's look at this. Doc raised the issue about the growing expenditure of the country or the state, and it goes also to affect the deficits, our budget deficits and all. Now, some have argued that it seems government is the fastest growing sector in the economy, if you like, in the sense that in terms of its size and expenditure, government is continually keeps growing. You have new agencies, new ministries we thought would be subsumed under the Office of the Presidency, now coming out to be fully fledged ministries requiring buildings of their own and, a certain operational expenditure line for them and all of that. Yet, we don't seem to be getting the commensurate return or value from these investments. I honestly, I just get worried about these things. Is it not time? Perhaps this is a cliche issue, but I will say it nonetheless. Is it not time that we began to invest in more productive areas than where we keep putting our monies? Ambulances, 4-wheel drives, 20 in 2018, minus fuel to power it and all of that. Seriously, where are we heading?
Abina, the truth of the matter is that people, or the good people of this country, thought there was going to be a change in the way we do things.
I haven't had a bite on this cherry, but he started it and went to.
You haven't spoken on it.
I will.
Not at all.
Just a minute.
Have you spoken on this particular?
Just a minute.
So,
I will.
so
Honourable Teticha started.
To be fair,
I will. Just a minute.
No.
Okay, wait. Richard, fine. If that has happened, then clearly it's on my blind side. But no, that's fine. It's not an issue. Yes, it's not an issue. I will.
I'm really surprised.
No. Just a minute. It shouldn't be an issue. You've drawn my attention to it. Honestly, it didn't occur to me, but that's fine. You can pick up on that then. I mean, I need to give you the benefit. But if he is, I am not, I mean, I just, the issues just keep coming, so that's fine. But you carry on.
Yes.
Carry on.
You see, and
he'll come back to
you. Don't worry, you be given the opportunity.
But you did speak, in fact.
And the good people of this country thought they were going to see something very different. But currently, people are totally disappointed with what the MPP under His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, the way the resources of this country are being handled. You read a statement that came out from the presidency as to when we were raising the issues of the newly formed ministries, departments that were as a result of the numbers in terms of the ministers. And we were told that because these sectors are going to be at the office of the president, resources will not be that much used on their setting up. Today, this particular ministry that we are talking of, government is going to spend over 148 million Ghana cedis for its setting up. Ghana for Muntio, 148 million Ghana cedis just for the setting up of the office.
That's the estimated cost.
Yes, of setting up the office. And that is where we have the 20 4-wheel drives,
and all of that.
The development of the website, some of budget preparation.
I hope you worked the development of the website figure as 80,000, not 800. Because
it's
if
800.
you use 800, then it will be over and above. Because she says it's a typo. So
yeah, no, I added everything.
Then I hope you use the 80,000.
No, I used 800. I used 800 because that is what has been approved.
It's still about 140.
Yeah, So about 148,000 Ghana cedis. Look at this, the office, and look at how much we are spending on the ministry. Let me give you a very good analogy. Let's look at Ministry of Health. We are spending 63,000.
Million or 3,000? 63 million.
63 million on Ministry of Health. As against this office, 148 million.
It's for special developments.
Yeah. Capital expenditure for a new this thing that is being set up is bigger than a whole budget for the health ministry. What are we talking of? Look at the Ministry of Education. We are giving Ministry of Education 12 million. The whole Ministry of Education.
Are you sure?
I'm telling you.
How can education be 12
million? You are surprised.
But that's a graph there.
Oh, you look at it.
Really?
So essentially, yes, carry on, Honorable. Go ahead with your point.
You see? So, you are giving the whole Ministry of Education 12 million. Ministry of
That's capital expenditure.
Exactly.
So minus others. This is capital expenditure.
And then you give this particular ministry a whooping 148 million.
Let's just clarify issue here. The figures you're looking at are in respect of capital expenditure for the sectors you're trying to compare, not the entire, because then it would sound very outrageous
Exactly.
It would, yeah.
For office accommodation, 15 million Ghana cedis. Are there? 15 million. So now we come to the project itself.
How many is it?
Carry on, please. We need to be wrapping up on this. So
you see, the period of Wonchendi is over. It's over, and the good people of this country are now very, very, very discerning, and they want to ensure that there is value for money. The same president told us that, look, the issue of four-wheel drives, in my government, I have put what on it? A hold.
I need you to wrapping up, so I move quickly. Then we'll
Today,
take a break and come back.
Just one particular ministry, 20 four-wheel drives, and even if you look at the cost, one is going for 500,000 Ghana cedis, and that is the government that tells us that it is protecting the purse.
Very well. Thank you. We need to take a break. Richard, when we come back, you have your piece on this issue. We'll be back shortly after this break. You're watching and listening to Newday Saturday edition. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Newday Saturday edition live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and online on 3news.com, also on our Facebook page TV3 Ghana. We'll wrap up on this Ministry of Special Development Initiatives issue and then proceed to look at some other topics lined up. So, Richard, you have the last word on this issue.
Thank you very much, Abena. I think I largely agree with my brothers in terms of the quantum and some of the figures that we are looking at. I mean, it is important to also make this point forcefully that not a single dollar has been, or CD has been spent. It is budget still remains budgetary proposals. But there's another difficulty that I've seen over the period. I had the opportunity of being with one NDC MP on I think FM in the course of the week. And he was holding the document, and I thought we should share the same document on this particular matter. It does appear that the table and the figures that he was pushing and mentioning were entirely different from what I had.
We are on TV3.
I'm coming.
And we're dealing with the facts.
I beg you.
Yes.
It's rather unfortunate the name of the platform came, just for emphasis. That's why I put it across.
Yeah.
But I should remember that Honorable Oseche Mensah-Bonsu also indicated that the figures and the document that he was holding was entirely different from what the minority were holding. So in terms of even the figures, it does appear that there was some complete mess up. So let's all be patient and allow the parliament themselves to go through. And we are also being told that these things came as a result of errors or the printers there, as we usually call it. So let's be careful, because some of the figures that my brother Honorable Tetechai is pushing across, it does appear that it is not the same as what I have.
No, but Richard,
I said some.
Wait, just a minute.
Okay. Some of them are, of course.
Wait, just
some
a
of them
minute.
are. Some of them are.
Richard, let me intervene here. I think saying that will not be fair.
No, I'm saying some. I've said some.
No. We have had cause to check the documents, and
they're
the same.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Let's not be trying to play any mischief or anything.
The next thing that needs to be look at is the mischief that is being played around, and the comments by my brother Tetechai that the cost of setting up set this ministry and it's all those things. I indeed understand that, like we've already said to ourselves, that the figures are quite outrageous. But we need to understand that there's no infrastructure for this ministry. And this ministry is going to have other development, agencies that is going to help them execute their work. That's why we have the savannah, the coastal, and all those areas coming into play. Because we need to set up this to make sure that the dream of the president is realized. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking that Parliament needs to look at these figures again, look at how we can work on this. But the point is that as the figures as it stands, some of them are quite...
I don't want us to belabor this point, because we have this important issue to look at. The journalists who were beaten at the NPP headquarters, we need to do that. But when you say what the figures being put out are not true, or that they don't go to show that there's going to be maybe some operational expenditure, that is not true either.
I'm not sure I've said that.
No, essentially that's what you said just before I came in. You have a budget line that speaks to procurement of office furniture and fixtures.
Yeah.
What would that entail?
6 million.
That is going, and then you have manpower skill development and all of, I mean, there are a number of things. Like I said, I don't want us to belabor the point.
But the point is that what we said, I'm not sure, I did not say that.
You conclude.
Looking at the fact that there are various figures being bandied around.
You carry
on with the conclusion, and then we go on. We've seen tables that have been created for this purpose and for mischievous purpose.
But none of those tables have been presented here. I think
I've seen that. So what I'm saying is that
conclude on that.
In terms of the way forward is for Parliament to look at these figures. And also I know that in terms of releases, I doubt that monies will be released for certain figures that cannot be explained.
Very well. We will move on. I think that's fine. We'll move on now to look at another unfortunate incident that happened this week, where some journalists who went to the NPP headquarters to, cover a story that was developing at the time had the unfortunate experience of being beaten by some men there who are thought to be security guards stationed at the NPP headquarters. We do have the footage, and I believe we can play that so that we put the conversation in the right perspective and carry on. So if it's ready, please, let's have it rolling. So we go on.
The group, numbering 123, stormed the party headquarters, demanding the national executives of the party to stop the constituency chairman and his allies for going against laid-down rules governing the registration process. The registration of the members is towards the January 2018 polls to elect polling station executives, which is expected to end in December 25. Instead of making available the original copies of the register, the group claims the constituency chairman has rather given out A4 sheets for the registration.
Original register.
We are here to take away the original and photocopies of the register of 122 polling stations. And I emphatically say that Freddie Blay is behind the diabolic activities of the constituency chairman.
Chairman, he's a national chairman, the constituency.
According to them, this is a deliberate attempt by the executives to manipulate the registration process. Covering the event, some macho men at the gate of the party assaulted journalists, indicating that the media had no right to take coverage of the event.
Come closer. No. What is that?
One of the macho men attempted to hit TV3's cameraman with a stone but was stopped. However, this did not stop him from mounting a heavy blow which landed on his neck. The key to TV3's vehicle was also forcefully taken away from the driver.
What is that?
Another cameraman from Ghana Web was rushed to the hospital after he received beatings from the macho men.
Okay, so that was the footage there where some members of the party in the Limbele constituency besieged the premises of the office of the NPP headquarters and basically had to do with the register in the constituency. I mean, they came there and then the journalists who found themselves there to do their job, which is to cover news and report accordingly, had to be beating up. One of our journalists was caught up in that as well. And I mean, in this day and age, it's, you know, it's rather unfortunate that these things still continue. But I would want us to look at this within the, you know, general context of security concerns and lawlessness in the country. And Richard, I mean, clearly this is to be condemned.
Conduct ought not to be entertained in our body politics. I mean, we ought to condemn it, not because they were even journalists, but the fact that the people were assaulted. I mean, you cannot allow that to persist. I mean, that ought not to be entertained in no uncertain terms. Whoever did that is quite regrettable and it's quite shameful. If indeed journalists came to the party office to sort of conduct interview or to sort of report on what the happenings over there, I don't want us to sort of engage in any kind of theatricals when it comes to these particular issues. I think in terms of the principle that you ought to allow people their due and let them go about doing the work that they've been assigned to do by their various stations. I think it was bad and it's unfortunate. I think that whoever did that should be ashamed of him or herself, because the point is that we cannot allow that to happen. Because remember in the earlier discussion, we were looking at even what has happened in Parliament, that we can do politics without getting ourselves into fisticuffs where people would want to exchange blows and all those things. When dragging people, beating people, breaking of cameras and all that. I mean, these things are not accepted. Political parties and political actors ought not to. I remember a couple of years ago, I remember we then in opposition spoke against it when Standogbe took the recorder of a journalist and smashed it and destroyed it. We spoke against that. And I'm not sure that I'll have the moral authority to sit here and talk and defend this. And I think that we ought to say that it was in bad taste. It ought not to have happened. Because all these things, we have kids watching out and looking at this. But it doesn't really play out there. I mean, a couple of years ago, we had something and he been slapped in Parliament. These things are not right. In our party office, we had a series of incidents like that in time past. I think that the MPP as an organization does not support some of these things. So, I mean, it's regrettable to say the least.
Very well. Doc, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's unfortunate, but expected. Unfortunate but expected because Richard made reference to Standogbe, who was alleged to have seized the camera of somebody. What happened? Did the person take the case to the police station? Did they pursue the case? In this particular instance, TV3's cameraman was attacked, so to speak. What is TV3 doing? Fama Nyame syndrome. So if these things happen, then it tends to be perpetuated. The cameraman at Ghana Web, he was hit. What did he do? So if you just want to lament, then these things will be what? Will be repeated, because this is not the first time. This is not the second, and it's not going to be the last. I think Ghanaians have this whole, I mean, penchant of everything. I don't want to go to the... I mean, of course, we understand the difficulty, but TV3 as an organization should take this up, because you can't allow your workers to be brutalized just by some ordinary people.
Doing their job.
And beyond that, I mean, what is the MPP executives doing about it? Have they heard about it? Has TV3 reported to them? If you haven't, I mean, I think you need to. I think, yeah, you need to send an official complaint and to register your displeasure about the way your people were treated. And if possible, you must take legal action. If you don't take legal action and you leave these things to continue every day, I mean, it will keep on repeating. But this whole issue of macho men thing. I don't even get where it's coming from. I mean, when NPP was in opposition, they were using macho men. Now you are in government. So if you think they are that good, transition them into, what do they call it, into some of the security agencies and get properly qualified trained security men to man the place. This issue of always using force, what was the case? This group of people came as far as from what? Elembele. About 100 of them. So if they come from Elembele to send a petition, if you listen to the spokesperson, he was saying that the blame is to be put at the doorsteps of the party chairman. This is a newsworthy item. Why won't journalists go there? They go there, then you mishandle them. And I would have wished that the chairman of the party should have even come out by now to speak to the issue, because he might be deemed as culpable. Because those guys came to what? To send a petition, and he is in charge. All the security and all those people are under him, and he happens to be somebody who is involved in this issue, because the member who came were saying, look, they specifically mentioned his name. So I think as a country, some of these things we only allow them to fester because we just don't take the appropriate action. We just leave things to God, and that is a kind of problem we have. And it's one of the reasons why we have so much indiscipline in this country.
Very well, yeah, true, exactly. We see this happening in all sectors, land guards,
discipline, my sister.
I mean,
discipline.
Yeah, but also talking about the whole law enforcement system and everything.
The policeman cannot come and cause an arrest if you yourself you are not cooperating. There are instances where people are beaten. In fact, we are told these people are even policemen. When it comes crunch, come to crunch, they say nothing happened.
So we have an issue there, but yes, Honorable Chai.
Yeah, Abina, I'm not surprised about what has taken place. Just a day after the incident, I was at one of the TV stations, and you know, as your cameramen, as they take footage of what was happening, there was no report on that incident in any of the newspapers. So the gentleman became very furious. We've been beaten, and you are here discussing other issues.
You are not discussing it.
You are not discussing our beating. Although they were filming, but those were the comments they made. It tells you that, look, we need to protect our journalists. Their protection is very important. And you see, in this country, most of the assaults on journalists are done by politicians. And as Doc rightly said, we as institutions are also not ready to put these people through the criminal system. Because what they've done is criminal and assault. The journalist has come to do its work, gathering information and reporting exactly what is before him or her. Where should the beating come from? Why should he or she be beaten? But this has happened to a whole lot of journalists who were that day at the office, party headquarters. And it's becoming too much. It's becoming too much. And for me, I've always said that, look, as political parties, we need to refrain from such barbaric acts. It doesn't enhance our democratic culture. Because if you want to hold a press conference, you want the journalists to come and report it.
Exactly.
Okay? But
when it suits you.
When there's a bad news, that one, when they come, you beat them up. I think it is about time stations take certain decisions on some of these political parties. Yes. Because look, if I blacklist you when you want to hold your party activities, then you understand what you put our people through. Do you get it? But let's wait. Tomorrow, if they are going to hold a press conference, the same beating journalists, you will assign them that same responsibility. So we are putting our journalists into a form of danger. We need to protect them. And I must say that, look, all the various media houses that had the experience of this unfortunate incident, they should report the issue formally, make sure those who were involved are charged with that criminal offense. And I don't think you've done something wrong, because these are people who are working for you. Their security is very important. Who is going to pay for the harm that has been done to them? And the next time, they are the same people you are going to send to go and report on those issues. So we all need to work together. I believe that the way we treat our journalists in this country is not right. Because look, in terms of our democratic culture, if it was not the journalists that we have today, we would not have gotten to where we are today. So why do we treat them in this barbaric manner
and handle them that way? I
no,
mean,
it is not right.
It can't be condemned even more on this.
Not only on journalists alone. That's why I was trying to extend the discussion. Political violence ought not to be entertained, even within the political parties. MPP and NDC people should not meet and fight. There's no sense in that. Within MPP ourselves, we ought not to have meetings and degenerate into fisticuffs where we bust each other. It ought not to happen. Within NDC, it ought not to happen. And we've seen too much of this in our history. And I'm thinking that it's high time we all desist from that. And because today is journalists that is we are discussing. Tomorrow maybe it will be another person who's not a journalist.
Right.
Somebody's a passerby who cannot report it. So we ought to make sure that we stop all these things. There's no need in, just exchanging views or not to degenerate into beating each other.
Understand these macho men are trained to go and beat.
No,
that is the kind of
that's the orientation.
These are their orientation. If you joke,
is it dog?
beat the person. The only way they will not do focus on
yes. It's true. I mean, it's a cultural thing.
You will not hit somebody.
Thing, yes.
Richard, you will not hit somebody. But the macho men.
But that's fine. Yes.
What happened to Honorable Samson? Was he slapped by his colleague member of parliament?
What did he do? When you ask Samson, he
wasn't a macho man.
Wasn't a macho man. Samson, you should have gone to court.
I'll be getting
you should have gone to court.
Yes, that culture is also there where we shy away from resorting to,
then they'll sit behind, let's solve it,
established by law. But there are also reasons why people stay away. We have just about 9 minutes more to go, but I want us to look at this issue about absenteeism in Parliament. Honourable Tetichai, status of you've been there and all of that. We do know that there's a constitutional provision that allows MPs, to seek permission, and that if the permission is not granted in writing and they are not able to give reasonable explanations why they're absent from sittings for about 15
days.
Continuous, yes. Then they would have to vacate their seats. Yeah. Is this constitutional provision applied?
Well, whether it is...
Or people look out for it, they get 14 days and then they come back to the...
But you have given them the opportunity.
Yes, so it's a problematic provision then.
And whether a member of parliament has gone into that or not, it will also be difficult for you to tell. Because when somebody is asking for leave, the letter is not published for every member to know that this person is out. And normally, you need to write to your leadership for them to approve. Okay? Yeah, that is
the procedure.
The procedure. So if a member at the other side is behaving, or you don't see that person, or even within your party, you don't see him on the floor of the house, it is very difficult for you as an individual to conclude that he's absented himself from the house without any reason. But there are times that our leadership has met with the caucus to talk about absenteeism and its effects on the work of parliament. Look, people come to parliament with different mindsets. Okay? That is why you see some members of parliament every time in the chamber. The only time you will not see such a person in the chamber is when maybe he or she is on assignment, maybe outside the country or within the jurisdiction. But those who report from parliament, they can tell you members of parliament who are always in the chamber to do their work. But you see, at times when budgets are going to be, especially the budget period, that is where you see a lot of absenteeism in terms of the chamber.
And why is that?
There are several reasons. when the budget is read, maybe after a week, documentations in terms of the various budget outline of the ministries, departments, and agencies will have to be circulated. If I'm the chairman for a particular committee, I need to work with my committee to look at the documents that they've brought, to like the figures. We check all those things and then we report on it. So sometimes a chairman comes very early because of the workload and then assembles its members. But the rule is that you need to come to the chamber. You have to come and then report to yourself. But because it is time for the budget, most people do not even enter the chamber and then they go straight to committee work. And when it happens that way, definitely the house will be empty. And the speaker will also have to do his work. And if the members are not there,
quorum,
there's no way. Exactly. But we also have recalcitrant members of parliament. But you see why these things are happening?
Yes, but
you know why this is happening? Because we, the citizens, do not also have the opportunity to assess our members of parliament.
Very well. Let me move quickly. I mean, time is almost up.
Doc, and then to you. The explanation being given by Honorable Tata Chow is one that looks more convincing, but it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that, in the sense that...
Because the explanation he's given, at least they're still on the premises doing their job.
Yeah. Because I think recently, within a week or two, the speaker had to postpone because twice, or within a week, because he didn't have quorum. And you know the irony. Recently, there was a research that was done by a certain Udikro.
Yeah,
Udikro did it, and he said, look, majority of the people who do not even come are ministers and deputy ministers. Ministers and deputies. And I'm not surprised, because if you look at now, the number of people who are ministers and are in government is a lot.
And that's a constitutional requirement.
Constitutional requirement. But it tells you that if the person is a minister or a deputy minister, the probability of the person not going to parliament is very, very high. So I'm not surprised.
So we should be looking at that provision.
We should be looking at that and moving forward. I mean, there's also the concern that, look, if it is with that, when it comes to those in government, what about the opposition? I mean, contiguity theory will tell you that, look, if the people who are supposed to, the majority, most of them are not there, the motivation for the minority to also come will be what? Will be very low. You get a point, because parliament is a two-sided arrangement. So if you come to parliament and the majority side is empty, what kind of serious business can you...
Very well. Let me move to Richard. You're taking us home on this.
I share largely with all their submissions on this matter, except to add that there's also a difficulty of MPs keeping their eyes on their constituencies to make sure that they are not kicked out. I mean, that has been a major difficulty if you check the various political parties. And it's peculiar with those who have their constituencies distance away from Accra. For instance, if you're in Accra, you can't be going to parliament and even going through your constituency to have meetings and also touching base with them. But if you are far away, Boko, Boga, and all those areas, it becomes a difficulty. And you know, no matter the situation, the moment of reckoning will come that you need to account to your people. So sometimes some of them want to do that and stretch themselves. Others would want to use the moment to go out, the lobbying and all manner of things. But I know there are others who are just truant and they just don't want to go. So these things are there, and I think we ought to look at that. And I think the last point is on what our doctor spoke about the constitutional requirement that requires that majority of ministers ought to come from parliament. It literally undermines parliament in a way, because we are looking at democracy where there ought to be checks and balances. So if part of parliament becomes part of the executive, ordinarily you realize that it's very difficult to sort of reconcile this whole thing.
The issue of separation of powers and all of that, yes. But it's interesting. I mean, so the thing then is, for those parliamentarians who are quote-unquote true ones, they would definitely hide under the 15 sittings, provision. Then they can do whatever it is. Because really, I believe that it's not for nothing that there's an allowance of 15 days. Because yes, there's the recognition that you need to go to your constituency and work there and all of that. But if it's abused, then it becomes a problem. But as it is now, it's even difficult to tell. Like Honorable, you're saying, difficult to tell exactly, because you don't have the records readily available to make all those references.
Some of them are schooling, some of them are doing jobs.
Even a day, you need to write
permission
to your leadership.
Right.
You need to write for approval. If you are not given approval, there's no way you should leave.
Is it the case?
No.
That's not. Yes.
Boils down to the issue that I've been talking about, enforcement of the law.
Enforcement of the laws. At the end of the day, that's what it is. But anyways, this is where we draw the curtains on today's show. This is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We appreciate your messages that you sent through. Of course, we couldn't read all of them, but we do appreciate them less. Thank you to the panel, Dr. Ahmed Junapo, Honorable Theophilus Chai, and Richard Asante. Have yourselves a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. We'll see you here next week. Bye-bye.